My child-loving neighbors keep trying to take my daughter and make our kids be a creepy twin couple. I called them out in front of everyone at their Halloween party because they tried to set up our kids together. My husband and I moved to Germany with our kids 4 years ago, so needless to say, we know the culture despite not being native. Our daughter started school this August for the first time, and many of her classmates live in the same area we do. One of the boys in her class lives at the end of the road behind us. When we first moved into the neighborhood back in May, we were welcomed by a few of our close neighbors and this boy's mother. Let's call her Astrid. She took a liking to my baby, but most people fuss over babies, so I didn't think much of it. That same day, she told me how she had lost 2 baby girls and how lucky I was to have so many girls, and she only had 3 boys. The day after she came with her husband, let's call him Morton, and he too wanted to pick up the baby and paid her a lot of compliments. Until he met our oldest daughter and made a remark that I didn't think much of at the time. He said my daughter and his son could easily pass for twins as they are in the same class, and they look alike. They don't. My daughter is super blonde with gray eyes, and their son has dark, dirty blonde hair with hazel eyes. So, I corrected him. He feigned offense and said what he meant was that she could pass for his daughter, the baby too. The comment stung more than I expected, and I found myself speaking up before I could stop myself. Morton laughed dismissively, claiming he meant facial structure rather than coloring, then quickly backtracked saying it was merely a joke. They extended an invitation for drinks, which we politely refused, preferring to maintain neighborly distance. Throughout summer encounters at local shops, they persistently called my daughter Julia Stierna while singing movie tunes until I firmly asked them to stop. Their frequent party invitations seemed odd, given their minimal interaction with longtime neighbors. Morton and Astrid regularly approached my daughter during her walks home, attempting to lift her and touch her hair, which ceased only after my husband's intervention, though they claimed such behavior was culturally normal here, which it isn't. Come October, they pressed us to co-host a Halloween celebration, insisting we coordinate costumes for what they called the twins. Despite our clear refusal citing non-participation in Halloween, they remained persistent, sending their son repeatedly to request playtime with his supposed twin. Following numerous warnings about these twin references, I firmly demanded they cease. With my husband working offshore since mid-October, I managed alone when Astrid approached me in the park alongside my daughter's teacher, Astrid's childhood friend, presenting 3 costumes. She announced they'd arranged a Halloween party specifically accommodating our beliefs, expecting my daughter's attendance. I firmly declined despite the teacher's encouragement about community bonding. Astrid mentioned expensive costume alterations and specific hairstyling plans for my daughter's Gretel role opposite her son's Hans. When I reiterated our non-participation, she brazenly removed my daughter's hairband, attempting to replace it with her purchased accessory. I departed immediately while she called after us about being neighbors and friends, the teacher trailing behind, insisting Astrid meant well and simply likes girls. Monday brought my daughter home sporting unfamiliar hairstyling and accessories. Upon inquiry, she revealed her teacher had styled her hair during lunch. Confronting the teacher Tuesday morning, she admitted using Astrid's purchased items, arguing I hadn't explicitly forbidden hairstyling and suggesting I should appreciate free accessories for my daughters. I returned everything, warning against future interference. That evening during neighborhood trick-or-treating hours, my daughter played with another non-participating friend. Around 7, their absence prompted my search. Other children reported Morton and Astrid had driven away with her, sending her friend home. Leaving my younger children with neighbors, I rushed to their house carrying the baby. Their garden party was underway with my daughter, present hairstyled, candy bag in hand, wearing the refused costume. Fury overtook me. I immediately called police before unleashing multilingual tirades about their behavior. Officers arrived, took statements, and we departed. This morning, the teacher coldly informed me that calling police was excessive, emphasizing Morton's volunteer work with children's football. She suggested school mediation would have been more appropriate than publicly humiliating them. The teacher defended her approach during our meeting, explaining her perspective on the incident. She said Astrid has been grieving, and her behavior is normal for someone who lost so many children one after the other, and not to make it harder on her as people have gossiped quite a bit about it. She said they didn't know they had crossed a line and it wouldn't happen again, so they just dropped the complaint at the police. On Friday, I have to make a full statement at the police station. She wants me to cancel it as Astrid and Morton are not bad people, and she thinks I should be glad someone else thinks this highly of my daughter. She wasn't harmed, and she sees no reason for me being angry as the children all play in each other's garden anyway. She said not to blow things out of proportion, as at no point was my daughter alone with Morton. I stared at her in disbelief. My hands shook as I gripped the baby tighter against my chest. The teacher stood there, arms crossed, waiting for my response like she'd just suggested something perfectly reasonable. You want me to drop the complaint? My voice came out louder than intended. Several parents picking up their children turned to look at us. The teacher glanced around nervously before stepping closer. Let's discuss this inside my classroom. The children don't need to hear this. I followed her, my mind racing. Inside the empty classroom, she closed the door and turned to face me. Her expression softened into what she probably thought was understanding. Look, I know you're upset about Halloween, but Morton volunteers with the Youth Football League. He coaches half the boys in the school. Astrid helps with every school event. They're pillars of this community. They took my daughter without permission. Each word came out sharp and precise. She was playing outside. They assumed you knew. It's what neighbors do here. Help each other with the children. The teacher moved behind her desk, shuffling papers like this conversation was just another administrative task. They dressed her in a costume I specifically refused. They styled her hair after I told them to stop touching her. My free hand clenched into a fist. Astrid bought those things specially. She was trying to include your daughter, make her feel welcome. After losing her own girls, the teacher's voice trailed off, her eyes growing misty. The baby started fussing in my arms. I bounced her gently while pacing the small space between student desks. Her loss doesn't give her the right to my children. Nobody's trying to take your children. The teacher's tone turned sharp. That's a very serious accusation to make about people who were just being neighborly. Then why does Morton keep calling them his daughters? Why do they insist on this twin nonsense when I've asked them repeatedly to stop? The teacher sighed heavily. It's harmless. Some children do look alike. My own nephew gets mistaken for his classmate all the time. My daughter has blonde hair and gray eyes. Their son has dark hair and hazel eyes. They look nothing alike. Features can be similar despite coloring. She pulled out a folder from her desk drawer. Your daughter seems happy here. She's made friends. She's doing well academically. Why create problems where there aren't any? I stopped pacing. Create problems? They're the ones crossing boundaries. What boundaries exactly? Giving her candy on Halloween? Buying her hair accessories? These are kind gestures folders that you're misinterpreting. The teacher opened the folder, revealing my daughter's school records. I told them we don't celebrate Halloween. I returned the hair accessories. I said no repeatedly. And they found a compromise. A Halloween party that respected your beliefs while including your daughter in the community celebration. She tapped the folder with her pen. Integration is important for immigrant families. Your daughter needs to feel she belongs here. She belongs with her family, not with neighbors who can't respect basic boundaries. The teacher's face hardened. I've known Astrid since we were 5 years old. She's been through unimaginable pain. First, she lost her baby girl at 3 months. Crib death. Then her second daughter died during birth. Can you imagine that pain? The baby whimpered against my shoulder. I held her tighter, unable to stop myself from imagining such loss. That's terrible, but she's not finished grieving. Her boys are wonderful, but she always wanted daughters. When she sees your girls, it reminds her of what she lost. Is it so wrong that she wants to show them affection? There's a difference between affection and obsession. The teacher slammed the folder shut. Obsession? That's a strong word. I'd be careful throwing around accusations like that. It could affect your daughter's experience here at school. My blood ran cold. Are you threatening me? I'm trying to help you understand the situation. This is a small community. People talk. Right now, they're talking about the new family who called the police on the beloved football coach and his wife over a Halloween misunderstanding. I shifted the baby to my other arm, my muscles aching from tension. It wasn't a misunderstanding. They took her from our street to their house without asking. The children were all going between houses for treats. Your daughter wasn't singled out or isolated. She was with a group, supervised by adults the entire time. The teacher stood up, moving around the desk toward me. No harm came to her. She had fun. She got candy. End of story. The story ends when I say it ends. She's my daughter, and she's my student. I have a responsibility to ensure her well-being at school. That includes her social development and integration into our community. The teacher's voice took on a patronizing tone. Perhaps we should schedule some meetings to discuss your adjustment to German culture. I know some excellent family counselors who work with expatriate families. I backed toward the door. We've been here 4 years. We don't need counseling. The offer stands. Think about what's best for your daughter. Is filing a police report really worth ostracizing your family from the community? Worth making your daughter a pariah at school? She won't be a pariah for having parents who protect her. The teacher followed me to the door. Protect her from what exactly? From neighbors who buy her presents? From classmates who want to play with her? From a community that's trying to welcome her? I yanked open the door, nearly colliding with Astrid, who stood just outside. Her eyes were red-rimmed, a tissue clutched in her hand. I'm so sorry, Astrid whispered, reaching out toward me. I never meant to upset you. I just wanted to make your little Julia Stierna happy. Don't call her that. I stepped back, shielding the baby with my body. I bought the costume especially for her. The seamstress spent hours altering it to fit perfectly. I just wanted her to have a magical night with the other children. Tears rolled down Astrid's cheeks. The teacher put her arm around Astrid's shoulders. See? This is all a misunderstanding. Astrid would never hurt your daughter. She adores her. That's the problem. The words escaped before I could stop them. Astrid's face crumpled. How can loving a child be wrong? I've done nothing but show kindness to your family. Morton and I welcomed you to the neighborhood. We've invited you to every gathering. We've tried so hard to make you feel included. We didn't ask for any of that. No, you didn't. Astrid's voice turned bitter. You kept your distance. You refused every invitation. You act like we're dangerous when all we've done is try to be good neighbors. The teacher squeezed Astrid's shoulder. Why don't you go home, dear? I'll handle this. Astrid wiped her eyes, straightening her shoulders. Morton is devastated. He loves children. That's why he volunteers with the football team. The thought that someone would accuse him of whatever you're implying, it's breaking his heart. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. You took my daughter without permission. We took all the children who wanted to come to the party. Your daughter was playing outside with the others. She wanted to come. Astrid's eyes flashed with something I couldn't quite identify. She was happy with us. She laughed and played and ate candy like a normal child on Halloween. She's not your child to make decisions for. No, she's not. Astrid's voice dropped to almost a whisper. My children are dead. The words hung in the air like a physical weight. The teacher made soft, soothing sounds while Astrid composed herself. I should go, Astrid finally said. But please, think about what you're doing. The police? Really? Over a Halloween party? She walked away, her footsteps echoing down the empty hallway. The teacher turned back to me, her expression grave. You see what you've done? That woman is suffering, and you're adding to her pain over nothing. It's not nothing to me. Then you need to examine why you're so paranoid. What exactly do you think was going to happen? Morton and Astrid are respected members of this community. They've lived here their entire lives. Everyone knows them. Everyone trusts them. Everyone except me. The teacher shook her head slowly. That says more about you than it does about them. I strongly encourage you to reconsider your police statement. Think about your daughter's future here. Think about whether this is really the hill you want to die on. I left without another word, carrying the baby through the school corridors lined with children's artwork. Outside, the afternoon sun felt too bright, too normal for what had just happened. At home, I put the baby down for her nap and sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. The police station number was saved in my contacts. Friday felt both too far away and too close. My other daughters would be home soon, including my oldest. I'd have to look at her and know that the teacher who was supposed to protect her had instead enabled strangers to take her, that the community I'd tried to build a life in would circle their wagons around the people who'd violated our boundaries. The doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Morton standing on my doorstep, still wearing his work clothes. His face looked haggard, older than his years. I didn't open the door. Please, he called out. I know you're home. I just want to talk, to explain. I stayed silent, watching through the peephole as he shifted his weight from foot to foot. Your daughter reminds me of what my daughter might have looked like, he continued, his voice breaking. Astrid's second pregnancy. We knew it was a girl. We had the nursery ready. Pink walls, a crib full of stuffed animals. We'd chosen the name Emma. My hand hovered over the door handle but didn't turn it. When she was born still, Astrid held her for hours. She was perfect. 10 tiny fingers, 10 tiny toes, a full head of dark hair that might have lightened to blonde like Astrid's. His voice grew thick with emotion. The doctor said there was nothing we could have done, just one of those tragic things. I pressed my forehead against the door, closing my eyes. I'm not asking for pity. I'm trying to explain why seeing your daughter, so full of life and laughter, brings us joy. We're not trying to replace our Emma. We know she's gone. But is it so wrong to want to see a child happy? To buy her presents and include her in celebrations? The baby monitor crackled to life with soft crying. I needed to go to her, but Morton kept talking. I volunteer with the football team because being around children helps. It reminds me that life goes on, that there's still joy in the world. Your daughter. She has this light about her, this spark. When she smiles, it's like sunshine. I backed away from the door, heading for the baby's room. I know you're scared, Morton called out, louder now. I understand. You're protective of your children. That's good. That's how it should be. But we're not the enemy here. We're just two broken people trying to find moments of happiness where we can. The baby's cries grew more insistent. I hurried up the stairs, Morton's voice fading behind me. By the time I'd settled the baby and returned downstairs, Morton was gone. But there was a package on the doorstep, the Gretel costume, cleaned and folded in a clear bag. A note was attached, for when she's older and can choose for herself. With love, Astrid and Morton. I brought the package inside and shoved it in the back of the hall closet. My hands trembled as I made coffee, trying to calm my nerves before the children came home. The sound of laughter and chatter announced their arrival. My oldest daughter burst through the door, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders. Mama, look! She held up a paper covered in gold stars. I got perfect marks on my spelling test. I knelt down to hug her, breathing in the scent of her shampoo mixed with playground dust. That's wonderful, sweetheart. She pulled back, her gray eyes serious. The teacher said I might not be able to be in the Christmas play because of what happened. Is that true? My heart sank. What exactly did she say? She said there was a misunderstanding with the neighbors and that you were very upset. She said sometimes when adults disagree, children have to miss out on fun things. Her lower lip trembled. I really wanted to be an angel in the play. I smoothed her hair back from her face. You'll be in the play. I'll make sure of it. But even as I said the words, I wondered if I could keep that promise. The teacher had made her position clear. The community had chosen their side. That evening I helped with homework and made dinner, going through the motions of normal family life. But my mind kept returning to Friday's police appointment, to the choice I had to make. After the children were in bed, I sat at my laptop and began typing. If I was going to make a police statement, I wanted to document everything, every incident, every boundary crossed, every time they'd called my daughter their Julius Tierna or mentioned the twin nonsense. The list grew longer than I'd expected. Small things I'd dismissed or forgotten suddenly seemed part of a larger pattern. The way Morton always seemed to appear when my daughter walked home from school. How Astrid knew our schedule, showing up at the park when we were there. The gifts that appeared on our doorstep. Hair ribbons, chocolates, small toys. I'd thought we were being neighborly by accepting them. Now I wondered if we'd been encouraging something we shouldn't have. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Sabine, mother of your daughter's friend. I heard what happened on Halloween. I wanted you to know that not everyone agrees with how Morton and Astrid behave, but be careful. They have many friends. I stared at the message, unsure how to respond. Before I could type anything, another message appeared. My daughter told me Morton often watches the girls play at recess. The teachers think it's sweet because he coaches the boys, but it makes me uncomfortable too. A third message quickly followed. I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. It's hard to go against everyone, but after what happened on Halloween, I had to say something. You're not wrong to be concerned. I saved the number under Sabine's name and typed back, thank you for reaching out. Would you be willing to speak to the police? The typing indicator appeared and disappeared several times before her response came. I need to think about it. My husband works with Morton's brother. It's complicated. Of course it was. Everything in small communities was complicated, interconnected in ways that made standing up for principles feel like standing against the world. I closed my laptop and checked on the children one more time. My oldest daughter had kicked off her covers, sleeping sprawled across her bed like a starfish. I tucked the blanket around her again, studying her peaceful face. She did have a light about her, as Morton had said, a joy that bubbled up from somewhere deep inside. But that light was mine to protect, not theirs to bask in. The next 2 days passed in a blur of careful normalcy. I walked my daughter to school but avoided lingering for conversation. I took different routes to the shops, different times to the park. I became a ghost in my own neighborhood, present but untouchable. Thursday evening, the teacher called. I wanted to check in before tomorrow. Have you reconsidered your decision about the police statement? Number. I see. Her disappointment carried clearly through the phone. Well, I've arranged for Astrid and Morton to meet with the school counselor tomorrow. Perhaps if you heard their side of the story in a controlled environment, we could resolve this without involving the authorities. There's nothing to resolve. They took my daughter without permission. That's a fact, not a misunderstanding. Facts can be interpreted different ways. What you see as taking without permission, others might see as including a child in a community celebration. The teacher's voice hardened. I'm trying to help you here. The school board has already heard about this situation. They're concerned about the negative attention it might bring. Then maybe they should be concerned about why a teacher is styling students' hair with items purchased by random neighbors. Silence stretched between us before she spoke again. I've been teaching for 15 years. I've never had a parent question my judgment like this. I pride myself on knowing what's best for my students. Knowing what's best and doing what's best aren't always the same thing. I think we're done here. I'll see you at school, I suppose. Though I should mention that classroom volunteer positions for the spring semester are being reviewed. We want to ensure all volunteers align with our community values. The threat was clear. Fall in line or be frozen out. I hung up without responding. That night, I barely slept. Every sound outside made me tense, wondering if Morton or Astrid were watching the house. When morning finally came, I felt hollow but determined. I dressed carefully, choosing clothes that made me look responsible, credible, the kind of person whose concerns should be taken seriously. At the police station, I was led to a small interview room where a female officer waited with a recorder and notepad. Take your time, she said kindly. Tell me everything from the beginning. So I did. Every incident, every boundary crossed, every time I'd said no only to be ignored. The officer took careful notes, occasionally asking for clarification. And you've asked them repeatedly to stop this behavior? Yes, multiple times. My husband also spoke to them about the physical contact with our daughter. When did your husband speak with them? In September, after they tried to lift her up outside the grocery store. The officer made another note. And after your husband's intervention, did the physical contact stop? Yes, but the other behaviors continued. The gifts, the comments about her being their twin or looking like their daughter. Tell me more about Halloween night. You say your daughter was taken from the street. I explained how she'd been playing with her friend, how Morton and Astrid had driven up and convinced her to come to their party, sending the other child home. Did your daughter go willingly? She's 6 years old. When adults she knows tell her to come with them, she listens. That doesn't make it okay. The officer nodded. Of course not. And they dressed her in a costume you'd specifically refused? Yes. They'd asked multiple times about coordinating costumes for their son and my daughter. I said no every time. They bought the costume anyway and put her in it without my permission. What happened when you arrived at their house? She was in their garden with other children, wearing the costume, her hair styled the way Astrid had wanted. They were taking photos of her with their son. Did you ask them to stop? I called the police immediately, angry, then yes, I confronted them. I told them they had no right to take her, to dress her up, to ignore my clear boundaries. How did they respond? They claimed it was a misunderstanding, that they thought I knew where she was, that they were just being neighborly. The officer looked up from her notes. Has there been any contact since Halloween? I told her about the teacher's pressure, Morton's visit to my door, the costume left on my doorstep. The teacher actively encouraged you to drop the complaint? She said Morton and Astrid are pillars of the community, that they're grieving the loss of their daughters, that I should be flattered they think so highly of my child. The officer's expression remained neutral, but something shifted in her posture. Has the teacher taken any actions regarding your daughter at school? She styled my daughter's hair with accessories Astrid bought, even after I'd returned them and asked for no contact. She admitted to doing it, but said I hadn't specifically forbidden hairstyling. I see. The officer made several more notes. Is there anything else you think I should know? I thought about Sabine's text messages, but decided against mentioning them without her permission. Just that I'm not trying to cause trouble. I just want them to respect our boundaries and leave my daughter alone. Understood. We'll type up your statement and have you review and sign it. We'll also be speaking with Morton and Astrid as well as potential witnesses. The officer paused. I should prepare you. In cases like this, where there's no physical harm and the parties know each other, it often comes down to a warning rather than charges. But having this on record is important if the behavior continues. I nodded, feeling both relieved and disappointed. At least there would be an official record. At least someone had listened without trying to make excuses for them. The officer stood up. You did the right thing coming forward. Boundary violations, even seemingly minor ones, can escalate if left unchecked. Too often people stay quiet to keep the peace. As I waited for my statement to be typed up, I thought about those words. Keeping the peace. Such a noble sounding phrase for something that often meant letting people get away with inappropriate behavior. My phone buzzed with a text from my husband. How did it go? Are you okay? I typed back. I gave my statement. Officer was professional and took it seriously. Coming home now. Proud of you. We'll figure out the rest together when I'm back. I signed the statement and left the police station, feeling lighter despite knowing the real challenges were just beginning. The community backlash, the school dynamics, the careful navigation of a neighborhood where Morton and Astrid's influence reached into every corner. But I'd done what I needed to do. I'd stood up for my daughter and our family's boundaries. Whatever came next, at least I could look my children in the eyes and know I'd fought for their safety and autonomy. The walk home took me past the school where my daughter was learning and playing, oblivious to the adult drama swirling around her. I hope to keep it that way as long as possible. She deserved to be a child, not a pawn in someone else's grief or a substitute for someone's loss. As I turned onto our street, I saw Astrid in her garden, watching me approach. Our eyes met across the distance. She didn't wave or call out, just stood there among her flowers, a figure of loss and longing who'd crossed too many lines in search of something she could never have. I didn't acknowledge her, just continued to my door and stepped inside my home, closing the door firmly behind me. Friday's police appointment was done. Now came the harder task of living with the consequences while protecting my family from those who couldn't accept the word no. The weekend brought an eerie quiet. No knocks at the door, no encounters at the shops, no attempts at contact. I should have been relieved, but the silence felt heavy, like the calm before a storm. Monday morning arrived with my daughter chattering excitedly about a class project. I walked her to school, noticing how other parents seemed to create small pockets of space around us. Conversations quieted as we passed. Eyes darted away when I looked in their direction. At the school gate, another mother I'd spoken with occasionally turned her back deliberately when she saw me approaching. Her daughter waved at mine, but the mother quickly ushered her child away. My daughter noticed. Why did they's mama walk away so fast? She must be in a hurry, sweetheart. I kept my voice light, but my chest tightened. Inside the classroom, the teacher barely acknowledged my presence. She busied herself with papers while other parents chatted around us. When I said goodbye to my daughter, the teacher finally looked up. The Christmas play auditions are this week. I assume she'll be participating? Her tone suggested otherwise. Of course she will. We'll see. She turned back to her papers. I left feeling unsettled. At home, I found a note tucked under my windshield wiper. No signature, just typed words. You've made a terrible mistake. This community protects its own. I crumpled the note and threw it in the bin, but my hands shook as I made coffee. The baby played contentedly in her high chair while I tried to process what was happening. We were being systematically isolated. That afternoon, I arrived early for school pickup. Groups of parents stood in clusters, their conversations animated until they noticed me. Then voices dropped to whispers. I stood alone near the fence, pretending to check my phone. Sabine appeared at my elbow, speaking quietly. The whole school knows. Astrid spent the weekend calling everyone, crying about how you're trying to destroy their family. I filed a police report about them taking my daughter. That's all. That's not the story being told. Sabine glanced around nervously. She's saying you're unstable, that you've misunderstood their kindness for something sinister. Morton's been at the football club all weekend looking devastated. The other fathers are rallying around him. Of course they are. There's more. Sabine's voice dropped even lower. The teacher's been suggesting to other parents that maybe your family doesn't understand German culture, that you're overreacting because of cultural differences. We've lived here 4 years. I know, but people believe what they want to believe. She touched my arm briefly. I have to go. If they see me talking to you too long. She drifted away, leaving me alone again. When the children emerged, my daughter ran to me with her usual enthusiasm, but I noticed her teacher watching from the doorway. No smile, no wave, just cold observation. At home, I helped with homework while trying to maintain normalcy. But when bedtime came, my daughter asked, Mama, why was everyone whispering about us today? What do you mean, sweetheart? At lunch, some kids said their parents told them to be careful around me. McCatherine said her mama thinks our family is trouble. I sat on her bed, choosing my words carefully. Sometimes adults disagree about things. It's nothing for you to worry about. But I didn't do anything wrong. No, you didn't. And neither did we. I kissed her forehead. Everything will be fine. But as I turned off her light, I wondered if I was lying to her. Tuesday brought new developments. A letter arrived from the school requesting a meeting about my daughter's social integration. The carefully worded message suggested concerns about her ability to form appropriate peer relationships given recent family circumstances. I called my husband immediately. His voice crackled over the offshore connection. They're trying to make this about her? That's ridiculous. They're trying to pressure us, make us back down. Don't let them. I'll try to get emergency leave, but it might take a few days. I can handle it. I tried to sound more confident than I felt. That afternoon, I took the younger children to the park. The playground emptied within minutes of our arrival. Mothers gathered their children with thin excuses about forgotten appointments or sudden naps needed. My toddler didn't understand why her friends were leaving. She stood by the swings, looking confused as the last child was hurried away. The baby fussed in her stroller, picking up on the tension. We stayed anyway. I pushed my daughter on the swing while she chattered about birds and clouds, blissfully unaware of the social exile forming around us. But I noticed everything: the watchers in windows, the pointed absence of our neighbors, the way even passing dog walkers crossed to the other side of the path. Wednesday's school meeting was scheduled during morning hours when they knew my husband couldn't attend. I arranged childcare for the baby and arrived to find not just the teacher, but the principal and school counselor waiting. "Thank you for coming," the principal began, his tone professionally neutral. "We wanted to discuss some concerns about your daughter's social well-being." "What concerns specifically?" The teacher leaned forward. "Several parents have expressed discomfort about the recent police involvement with respected community members. They're worried about what kind of example this sets for the children. The example that boundaries should be respected? The example of turning neighbor against neighbor," the counselor interjected. "Children need to see adults resolving conflicts peacefully." I tried resolving it peacefully. I asked them repeatedly to stop. They didn't. The principal cleared his throat. "We understand there was an incident on Halloween, but calling the police seems extreme for what amounts to a cultural misunderstanding. Taking my child without permission isn't a cultural misunderstanding. Morton and Astrid have been part of this school community for years," the teacher said. "Morton coaches half our football team. Astrid organizes every bake sale, every festival. They've given countless hours to make this school better. That doesn't give them the right to my daughter." The counselor opened a file. "We're concerned about how this situation might affect your daughter's educational experience. Social isolation can be very damaging for a child's development. Then perhaps you should address the parents who are creating that isolation. Or perhaps," the principal said carefully, "we should consider whether this school is the right fit for your family. There are other schools in the district that might be more aligned with your values." The threat was clear: conform or leave. My daughter is happy here. She's doing well academically. The only problem is adults who can't respect boundaries. The teacher's face flushed. "I've been nothing but welcoming to your family. I've gone out of my way to help your daughter integrate. You styled her hair with accessories I'd explicitly returned. You took Astrid's side without even asking for mine. I was trying to help. Astrid was grieving, and your daughter looked so pretty with her hair done properly." "Properly?" I stood up. "According to whom?" The principal intervened. "Let's all calm down. We're not making any decisions today. We simply wanted to express our concerns and hope that moving forward, we can find a resolution that works for everyone. The resolution is simple. Morton and Astrid leave my daughter alone, and everyone else stops punishing her for my decision to protect her." I left without waiting for their response. In the parking lot, I found Astrid waiting by my car. She looked haggard, her usual perfect appearance disheveled. "We need to talk," she said. "No, we don't." I moved to go around her, but she stepped in my path. "Do you know what you've done? The police came to our house. Our neighbors saw. Morton's brothers are furious. His reputation at the football club is ruined. That's not my problem." "It is your problem." Her voice rose sharply. "This is a small community. You can't just destroy people's lives and expect no consequences." "I didn't destroy anything. I reported facts." Her eyes filled with tears. "I just wanted to love her a little." "Is that so terrible? To buy her pretty things? To include her in celebrations? To imagine for just a moment what it would be like if Emma had lived? My daughter isn't Emma. I know that." The tears spilled over. "But when I see her smile, when I hear her laugh, it helps. It makes the pain bearable for just a moment. And you want to take even that away from me. I want you to respect our boundaries." "Boundaries." She spat the word like it tasted bitter. "You hide behind that word. But what you really mean is you think we're dangerous. You think Morton and I would hurt her. I think you can't see her as her own person. She's not your daughter, not your second chance, not your healing. She's a child who deserves to exist without carrying the weight of your grief." Astrid's face transformed, the tears stopping abruptly. "You're right. She's not my daughter. My daughters are dead. But this community is very much alive, and you've just made yourself its enemy." She walked away, leaving me standing by my car with shaking hands. I drove home in a daze, her words echoing in my mind. That evening, my daughter came home from school subdued. When I asked about her day, she shrugged. "Fine." But at dinner, the truth emerged. Nobody wanted to be my partner for the project today. The teacher had to assign me someone, and O'Catherine complained the whole time. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. Sometimes people are silly." McCatherine said her mama told her I might be dangerous because our family calls the police on nice people. My fork clattered against my plate. "You're not dangerous. And we didn't call the police on nice people. We called them because someone took you without permission." "But everyone says Morton and Astrid are nice. Morton teaches football. Why would nice people do something bad?" How could I explain that nice people could still cross boundaries? That community standing didn't equal good behavior? That sometimes protecting someone meant standing against everyone else? Sometimes people make mistakes, even nice people. And when they don't listen when we ask them to stop, we have to find other ways to make them understand. She pushed her food around her plate. "I don't want to be the weird kid nobody plays with." My heart broke. She was being punished for my decision to protect her. But backing down now would only teach her that boundaries didn't matter if enough people disagreed with them. Thursday afternoon brought another escalation. I arrived for pickup to find my daughter sitting alone in the classroom while other children played outside. The teacher stood guard at the door. "What's going on?" "There was an incident at recess. Some children were saying unkind things. I thought it best to keep her inside until you arrived." "What kind of things?" "Children repeat what they hear at home." Her tone suggested I should know exactly what that meant. My daughter looked small and defeated at her desk. When she saw me, her face crumpled. "They said I'm not allowed at birthday parties anymore. Sebastian's mama told him I can't come to his party Saturday even though I already made his card." I gathered her into my arms, fury building in my chest. They were targeting a 6-year-old to punish me. "We'll make our own fun on Saturday," I promised. The teacher watched us with something like satisfaction. "Perhaps you should consider what's best for her. This situation isn't going to improve while tensions remain high. The only tension is from adults who think taking children without permission is acceptable. That's your interpretation. Others see it differently." She turned to my daughter. "Remember, tomorrow is the Christmas play auditions. Though given everything, perhaps it would be better if you sat this year out." "She's auditioning." I kept my voice firm. "We'll see if she's selected. The play is about community harmony after all." We left with my daughter clinging to my hand. At home, she went straight to her room. When I checked on her later, I found her tearing up the card she'd made for Sebastian. "Sweetheart, don't. It doesn't matter. He doesn't want it anyway." She threw the pieces in her bin. "Maybe we should move. Start over somewhere else." "Is that what you want?" She shrugged, but I saw tears in her eyes. "I just want friends again." That night, after all the children were asleep, I sat at my laptop researching other schools. The thought of letting them win made me sick, but watching my daughter suffer made me sicker. her. My phone rang. An unknown number. Hello? Heavy breathing. Then Morton's voice. You need to fix this. Morton, you shouldn't be calling me. My reputation is ruined. 20 years of volunteer work, gone, because you couldn't accept a little neighborly kindness. Taking my daughter without, she was playing outside. We included her with the other children. Any normal parent would be grateful. I'm hanging up now. Wait, his voice changed, becoming softer, more calculated. We can resolve this. Drop the complaint. Tell everyone it was a misunderstanding. We'll stay away from your daughter, and things can go back to normal. Things were never normal. You just hid it better. You have no idea what you're dealing with. This community has deep roots. Your family will never belong here now. Your daughter will suffer. Is your pride really worth that? This isn't about pride. It's about protecting my child. From what? From people who bought her gifts? Who included her in parties? Who thought she was special? His voice rose again. Do you know how many parents would love for their children to get that kind of attention? Not this kind of attention. You're sick. Seeing danger where there's only kindness. Maybe the school is right to be concerned about your mental state. My mental state? Oh, you didn't know? That's what people are saying. That you're paranoid, possibly unstable. That maybe your children aren't safe with someone who sees threats everywhere. My blood ran cold. That's slander. That's community concern. And communities protect themselves. He paused. Last chance. Fix this, or things will get much worse. He hung up. I stared at my phone, processing the threat. They weren't just isolating us anymore. They were building a narrative that could have serious consequences. Friday morning, I kept my daughter home from school. When the office called, I cited a stomach bug. Let them think what they wanted. She needed a break from the hostility. We spent the morning baking cookies and reading stories. For a few hours, I could pretend everything was normal. But normality shattered when the doorbell rang. Two women stood on my doorstep, Child Protective Services identification in hand. We've received a concerning report about the welfare of children in this home. May we come in? My world tilted. A report? From whom? We can't disclose that, but we're required to investigate all reports. May we come in? I had no choice. Refusing would only make things worse. I let them in, my mind racing. The house was clean, the children happy and healthy. But I knew that wasn't always enough when someone was determined to cause problems. They asked to see the children's rooms, checked the refrigerator and cupboards, asked about routines and discipline. My daughter watched from the stairs, confused and worried. Mama, who are these ladies? They're just visiting, sweetheart. Why don't you play in your room? One social worker followed her, asking gentle questions about home and school. I couldn't hear the answers, but I saw my daughter's animated gestures, her obvious comfort in her own space. The other worker questioned me about the recent family conflicts mentioned in the report. I explained about Halloween, about boundaries, about the police report I'd filed. So there's been tension with neighbors? She made notes. They took my daughter without permission. I reported it. And now there's community concern about your reaction to that incident? I recognize the trap. Defend myself too vigorously and seem unstable. Don't defend myself enough and seem guilty. I'm protecting my children. Any parent would do the same. She made more notes. The report mentioned possible paranoid behavior, seeing threats where none exist. The only threat is from people who won't respect our boundaries. Has your daughter been affected by these conflicts? I thought of her torn birthday card, her questions about why nobody wanted to play with her. She's being socially isolated because I won't drop the police complaint. So there are issues at school? Every answer seemed to dig me deeper. They left after an hour, saying they'd be in touch. The moment the door closed, I called my husband. They called CPS on us. They're escalating because the police didn't arrest me for being a concerned parent. I was shaking with rage and fear. I'm coming home. Emergency leave. I'll be there Sunday. They're trying to take our children because I wouldn't let them have our daughter. They won't succeed. We've done nothing wrong. But as I hung up, I wondered if being right was enough when an entire community was aligned against us. That afternoon, I picked up my daughter from school to find her class had practiced Christmas play auditions without her. The teacher claimed they'd forgotten she was returning after her illness. She can audition Monday, the teacher said dismissively, if there's still space. My daughter said nothing until we were in the car. Then quietly, they didn't forget. CB told me at lunch they did it on purpose. We'll practice at home. You'll be ready for Monday. What if they don't pick me anyway? I didn't have an answer that wouldn't be a lie. Saturday arrived with Sebastian's birthday party happening 2 streets over. My daughter watched from her window as other children walked past in party clothes. I suggested a movie day, but her heart wasn't in it. Around noon, Sabine texted, Astrid's at the party, telling everyone you're under investigation by social services. Says it proves she was right to be concerned about your mental state. The cruelty of it took my breath away. Using my daughter's exclusion from a party to spread more poison about our family. My daughter found me crying in the kitchen. Mama, what's wrong? I wiped my eyes quickly. Just grown-up stuff, sweetheart. She climbed into my lap, something she rarely did anymore. Is it my fault? Because of Halloween? No, I held her tight. None of this is your fault. Sometimes adults make bad choices, and other adults have to stand up to them. That's hard, but it's right. Even if everyone gets mad, even then. She leaned against me. I'm glad you stood up for me, even if it means no parties. That evening, a rock crashed through our living room window. No note, no warning, just violence and broken glass. I called the police while shielding the children in the kitchen. The same officer who'd taken my statement responded. She surveyed the damage grimly. Any idea who might have done this? The whole neighborhood hates us now. Take your pick. She made notes. The investigation into your Halloween complaint is ongoing. This escalation is concerning. They called social services on us. They're spreading rumors about my mental health. My daughter is being ostracized at school. Document everything. Every incident, every threat. Build a pattern. After she left, I boarded up the window while my daughters watched. My oldest helped hold the plywood while I hammered. Are we safe, Mama? I wanted to say yes. Instead, I said, we're together. That's what matters. Sunday morning brought my husband home and a brief respite. The children clung to him, pouring out their fears and frustrations. He listened with growing anger. This ends now, he said after they'd gone to play. I'm going to talk to Morton. That might make things worse. Worse than rocks through windows, than CPS investigations. He paced our boarded up living room. They're terrorists, using community pressure instead of bombs. They're grieving parents who crossed lines and can't admit it. They're adults targeting a 6-year-old because her mother wouldn't let them play pretend with her. He stopped pacing. I'm done being reasonable. But before he could act on his anger, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, we saw the principal, the teacher, and Astrid standing together. A delegation, my husband said grimly. Let me handle this. But I opened the door anyway. This was my fight. We've come with a proposal, the principal said. May we come in? I stood aside, noting how Astrid's eyes immediately sought out my daughter's toys scattered in the hallway. In our living room, they arranged themselves like a tribunal. The principal spoke first. The school board met yesterday. There's significant concern concern about the disruption to our community. We want to propose a solution that works for everyone. I'm listening. You withdraw the police complaint and make a public statement that this was all a misunderstanding. In return, Morton and Astrid agree to maintain distance from your family, and we work to reintegrate your daughter into the school community. You want me to lie? The teacher leaned forward. We want you to show grace, to recognize that good people made mistakes out of pain and love. Taking a child without permission isn't a mistake. It's a choice. Astrid spoke for the first time. I chose to include a lonely little girl in a celebration. I chose to buy her beautiful things. I chose to show her love when her own mother keeps her isolated. You chose to ignore every boundary I set. Because your boundaries are cruel. She stood up, shaking. Do you know what it's like to plan a nursery twice and never bring a baby home to it? To pick out names for daughters you'll never raise? That's not my daughter's burden to bear. No, it's mine. And including her in our lives made it bearable. She pulled out her phone, scrolling to photos. Look how happy she was at our party. Look at her smile. I saw the images. My daughter in the Gretel costume, laughing with other children. Morton lifting her onto his shoulders. My stomach turned. Delete those photos. These are precious memories. Delete them. My husband stepped forward. You heard her. Delete them now, or I'll add harassment to the police report. The principal intervened. Let's all calm down. Astrid, perhaps you should delete the photos as a gesture of good faith. She clutched her phone. But they're all I have. They're pictures of someone else's child taken without consent. My husband said. Delete them. With shaking hands, she complied. Tears streaming. There. Happy? You've taken everything. The teacher put an arm around her. This is what we're trying to avoid. More pain, more conflict. Surely we can find compassion here. Compassion isn't letting people do whatever they want because they're hurting, I said. The principal stood. Then I'm afraid we're at an impasse. The school board will meet again Monday to discuss whether this environment is healthy for any of the children involved. The threat was clear. Comply or face possible expulsion. They left in a cluster of disapproval and tissues for Astrid. My husband immediately called a lawyer friend. We need to document everything. The harassment, the retaliation, all of it. But I wondered if legal protection would be enough against an entire community's judgment. That night, I lay awake thinking about the photos on Astrid's phone. How many more did she have? How long had she been collecting images of my daughter like trophies of the child she'd never have? Monday morning arrived too soon. My husband took time off work to attend the Christmas play auditions with us. His presence seemed to surprise the teacher. I didn't realize both parents would be attending. We're very involved in our daughter's education, he replied coolly. Other parents whispered and stared. My daughter held both our hands as we walked to the auditorium. She'd practiced all weekend, determined to earn her spot despite everything. When her turn came, she walked to the stage with her head high. But as she began to sing, someone coughed loudly, then another. Soon, a symphony of coughs and throat clearing drowned out her small voice. The teacher made no effort to quiet the disruption. My daughter faltered, confused. The coughing intensified. Enough! My husband stood up. Let her finish. The coughing stopped, but the damage was done. My daughter rushed through the rest of her song and fled the stage. We found her in the hallway, sobbing. They did it on purpose. They don't want me in their stupid play. Then their play doesn't deserve you, I said, holding her close. The principal appeared. Perhaps it would be best if you took her home for the day. Let emotions settle. Emotions won't settle until this harassment stops, my husband said. Harassment is a strong word. Children cough. It happens. Coordinated coughing to disrupt a 6-year-old's audition isn't coincidence. The principal's face hardened. Prove it. We couldn't, of course. That was the brilliance of their campaign. Death by 1,000 untraceable cuts. At home, my daughter retreated to her room. Through her door, I heard her talking to her stuffed animals, explaining why she couldn't be an angel in the play this year. It's because Mama made everyone mad, she said in her serious voice. But she was protecting me, so it's okay, even if it means no friends. My husband found me crying in the kitchen. We could move, start fresh somewhere else, and teach her to run when things get hard. Teach her to choose battles worth fighting. He pulled me close. Is this hill worth dying on? Before I could answer, our phones buzzed simultaneously. The school email was brief. Following careful consideration, the Christmas play roles had been assigned. Our daughter's name appeared nowhere on the list. She took the news quietly, but I saw something dim in her eyes. Another piece of childhood innocence sacrificed to adult cruelty. That evening, as I tucked her into bed, she asked, "How long will everyone stay mad at us?" I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe if I talk to Morton and Astrid, told them I'm sorry they're sad about their daughters. No, I smoothed her hair. Their sadness isn't your responsibility. You don't apologize for existing. But I could make them feel better. Then everyone would be friends again. The weight of her words hit me. Even at 6, she was willing to sacrifice herself for peace, just like the community wanted. Sometimes being friends isn't worth what it costs, I said. She considered this. Like when Theodore wanted my lunch every day, and you said real friends don't take things without asking? Exactly like that. She nodded solemnly. Okay, but I still wish I could be an angel. After she fell asleep, I found my husband in his makeshift office, researching private schools and homeschooling options. The police called, he said without looking up. They've issued Morton and Astrid a formal warning about taking children without parental consent. No charges, but it's on record. That's something. Is it? Look what it cost us. He gestured toward our daughter's room. She's being punished for our principles. She's learning boundaries matter more than popularity. She's 6. She should be learning addition and making friends. Not that standing up for yourself means standing alone. I didn't have an answer. Every choice felt like a betrayal of something precious. The next morning brought a new development. A letter from social services clearing us of any concerns but noting the ongoing family conflict and suggesting mediation. Mediation? My husband laughed bitterly, like we're equally at fault. But I was already thinking ahead. If we agreed to mediation, it might show good faith. If we refused, it would be used against us. We'll do it, I decided, but on our terms. The mediator was a neutral party from outside the community. We met in a sterile office building, Morton and Astrid on one side, my husband and I on the other. Astrid spoke first, her prepared statement full of grief and good intentions. She painted a picture of a loving neighbor trying to include a child in community life, rebuffed by paranoid parents. Morton followed, emphasizing his volunteer work, his love for children, his confusion at our extreme reaction to normal neighborly behavior. When our turn came, I laid out the pattern. The comments about our daughter being their child, the persistent physical contact, the gifts we returned, the boundaries we set and they ignored, the Halloween incident. She was playing outside. Morton interrupted. You assumed you could take her because you wanted to. You dressed her up like a doll, styled her hair, took photos, without permission, without consent, because your grief matters more than her autonomy. The mediator intervened. Let's focus on moving forward. What would resolution look like for each party? family. We want our daughter left alone, my husband said. No contact, no gifts, no comments about twins or looking like their child. Complete separation. We want the police complaint withdrawn, Morton countered, and a public acknowledgement that we meant no harm. You took a child without permission. That's harm. She wasn't harmed. Astrid's composure cracked. She was happy. She was laughing. She was included and loved and special for one night. She's not yours to make special. The mediator suggested a break. In the hallway, my husband paced while I leaned against the wall, exhausted. They still don't get it, he said. They think wanting something enough justifies taking it. When we reconvened, the mediator proposed a compromise. We wouldn't withdraw the complaint, but we'd agree not to pursue further action if they maintained complete distance. They'd acknowledge our parental authority in writing. Both parties would work to minimize community impact. It wasn't justice, but it was something. We agreed. The drive home was silent until my husband spoke. Think they'll honor it? They'll have to. It's legally binding. But I knew paper meant nothing to grief that deep, obsession that strong. We'd won a battle, not the war. At school pickup, the atmosphere was different. Not welcoming, but less actively hostile. Word of the mediation had spread. Some parents seemed to view it as capitulation, others as escalation. Sabine approached cautiously. I heard about the mediation. Are things resolved? Legally, yes. She glanced around before speaking quietly. Astrid's been different lately. Quieter. Morton too. Maybe this shocked them into reality. Or maybe they were planning something else. Trust was a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. That evening, my daughter had news. They talked to me today. She said her mama said I could come to her birthday next month if I wanted. One olive branch among dead trees. That's nice, sweetheart. Do you think more kids will talk to me now? I hope so. She brightened slightly. Maybe by spring, things will be normal again. I didn't tell her that normal was gone forever. That even if the community eventually moved on, we'd always be the family that called police on the beloved football coach. The parents who chose boundaries over belonging. Instead, I said, maybe so, and helped her with homework, pretending the boarded window wasn't a constant reminder of how far things had fallen. That night, I stood in her doorway watching her sleep. She'd kicked off her covers again, one arm flung over her head, the other clutching the stuffed rabbit she'd had since birth. She looked so small, so vulnerable, but also strong. Stronger than any 6-year-old should have to be. My husband appeared beside me. We did the right thing, he said quietly. Did we? Yes. His voice was firm. Even if it doesn't feel like it, even if it cost us everything, we taught her that she matters more than someone else's pain. That's a lesson worth any price. I leaned into him, drawing strength from his certainty. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The mediation agreement would be tested. The community would watch and judge. My daughter would navigate a social landscape forever altered by our choices. But tonight, she slept peacefully, safe in the knowledge that her parents would fight the world to protect her. That had to be enough. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. Through the kitchen window, I watched a woman I didn't recognize walking up our driveway, carrying a covered dish. She knocked softly, almost hesitantly. I opened the door cautiously. She was older, maybe 60, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. I'm Ingrid, from 3 streets over. I heard about your situation. She held out the dish. Apple strudel, my grandmother's recipe. I accepted it warily. Thank you, but I'm not here to judge or take sides. She glanced around nervously. My grandson goes to your daughter's school. I've watched Morton and Astrid for years. What they did to your family isn't right. My grip on the dish tightened. Most people don't see it that way. Most people are afraid to speak up, but some of us remember when Astrid's mother did similar things. She fixated on a neighbor's daughter 20 years ago. The family eventually moved away. My blood chilled. This has happened before? Ingrid nodded grimly. Different time, less documentation. People just called it being overly affectionate. But I remember that little girl's mother crying at school events, begging people to understand. Before I could respond, my daughter appeared at my side, curious about our visitor. Ingrid smiled warmly at her, but maintained appropriate distance. What a lovely young lady. You must be very proud. I am. I pulled my daughter closer instinctively. Ingrid understood the protective gesture. I should go. But if you need someone to vouch for your character, someone who's lived here long enough to have perspective, you have my number. She pressed a card into my hand. After she left, I stood in my doorway processing this revelation. Patterns repeating across generations. A community that enabled it then, enabling it now. My daughter tugged on my shirt. Who was that lady? Someone who understands right from wrong. That afternoon, I took the younger children grocery shopping, needing supplies and normalcy. The store was busy with midday shoppers. I navigated carefully, avoiding aisles where I spotted familiar faces. Near the produce section, Morton's brother appeared in my path. Younger than Morton, but with the same intense eyes. He blocked my cart deliberately. You've made a mistake, he said quietly, glancing around to ensure no witnesses. My brother's reputation matters in this town. Fix this, or we'll make sure your family never finds peace here. The baby fussed in her carrier. I lifted my chin, meeting his stare. Move. Not until you understand. I understand perfectly. Your brother took my child. Now move, or I'll call store security. He stepped aside slowly, his expression promising future problems. I pushed past him, my hands trembling on the cart handle. My toddler, oblivious to the tension, reached for bananas while I tried to steady my breathing. At checkout, the cashier I'd chatted with many times before barely acknowledged me, scanning items in cold silence. The bagger, a teenager from the neighborhood, whispered something to her colleague and smirked. Loading groceries into the car, I found another note under my wiper. This one more direct. Leave town or face consequences. I crumpled it and added it to my growing documentation file at home. Evidence of escalation, proof of harassment, building a case for our safety. Wednesday brought the first break in hostility. At school pickup, a father I'd never spoken with approached me. His daughter was in my daughter's class, a quiet girl who kept to herself. I wanted you to know, he said carefully. Not everyone agrees with what's happening. My wife and I think you did the right thing. We have 2 daughters ourselves. Thank you. The simple support nearly broke my composure. Our daughter would like to invite yours for a play date, if you're comfortable with that. My daughter overheard and looked up hopefully. I hesitated, weighing risks against her need for friendship. We'd love that, I finally said. He smiled. Saturday afternoon? Our address is in the school directory. We'll be home all day. My daughter practically vibrated with excitement on the walk home. Mama, Greta asked me to play. She has a dollhouse and a trampoline. That sounds wonderful, sweetheart. Do you think her parents will change their minds, like Sebastian's mama did? I don't think so, but if they do, we'll handle it together. That evening, my husband's phone rang during dinner. His expression darkened as he listened. After hanging up, he set his jaw grimly. That was my supervisor. Someone called the company claiming I'm unstable, that our family situation might affect my work performance. They want me to meet with HR when I return. The children looked between us, sensing the tension. attention. I forced a smile. Finish your dinner, loves. Daddy and I need to talk. In the kitchen, my husband's fury was palpable. They're trying to destroy us systematically. Our reputation, our income, our children's social lives. We knew there would be backlash. Not like this. Not targeting my job. He ran his hands through his hair. Maybe we should consider moving. Start fresh somewhere they can't reach. Running teaches our daughter that bullies win. Staying teaches her that standing up for yourself means losing everything. His voice cracked. I can't watch her suffer anymore. The mediation agreement means nothing if the whole community circumvents it. He pulled me close. I'm scared. Not of them, but of what this is doing to our family. I held him tightly, feeling his fear echo my own. But beneath the fear, determination still burned. We'd come too far to surrender now. Thursday morning, I walked my daughter to school to find a small cluster of parents near the gate. Not the usual hostile gathering, but something different. Ingrid stood among them, along with Greta's parents and 3 others I didn't recognize. We wanted you to know, Ingrid spoke for the group, that we're filing a formal complaint with the school board about the bullying your daughter has endured. What happened at the auditions was unacceptable. My throat tightened. You don't have to. Yes, we do, Greta's mother interrupted. Silence enables abuse. We've been silent too long. One of the other mothers stepped forward. My family moved here from Poland 5 years ago. I know what it's like to be outsiders. What they're doing to you is wrong. My daughter looked up at the group with wonder. Adults standing up for her. Finally, she squeezed my hand tighter. The teacher appeared in the doorway, her face darkening when she saw our small gathering, but she said nothing, just watched as my daughter walked into school with her head high, knowing she wasn't entirely alone. That afternoon, I received a call from the police officer who'd taken my statement. I wanted to update you. We've received multiple reports of harassment against your family. We're taking this seriously. What does that mean exactly? We'll be increasing patrols in your neighborhood, and we're recommending the prosecutor review the case for potential charges beyond the warning. Relief flooded through me. Thank you. Thank you for not backing down. Too many families do, and patterns continue. After hanging up, I sat at my kitchen table feeling something shift. The tide wasn't turning exactly, but it was no longer entirely against us. Friday arrived with nervous anticipation. The playdate tomorrow loomed large in my daughter's mind. She changed her outfit 3 times that morning, wanting to make a good impression. At school, the atmosphere felt different. The small group of supportive parents had grown by 2 more. They nodded acknowledgement as I passed, a silent network of resistance forming. The teacher's hostility had evolved into cold professionalism. She communicated only what was necessary, her previous warmth completely extinguished, but she also seemed warier, less openly antagonistic. During pickup, Sabine approached again. Astrid was at the coffee shop this morning. She looked terrible. Someone said Morton's been sleeping at his brother's house. Their marriage isn't my concern. No, but it shows cracks. People are starting to question their behavior, especially after Ingrid spoke up about the past pattern. My daughter emerged from school clutching a drawing. Look, Mama, Greta and I made this together. It's us on the trampoline tomorrow. The simple joy in her voice made every battle worthwhile. That evening, we prepared for the playdate like a military operation. My husband would drive us and stay nearby. We'd have our phones ready. Exit strategies planned. It felt excessive, but necessary. You're nervous, my daughter observed as I braided her hair for the 5th time. A little, but good nervous. I'm happy you have a friend. Me too. Greta says her parents think you're brave. What does that mean? It means doing the right thing even when it's scary. She considered this. Like when I told the teacher that McCatherine was lying about me pushing her? Exactly like that. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear. My daughter woke early, too excited to sleep. She helped make cookies to bring to Greta's family, carefully arranging them on a plate. The drive to their house took us through unfamiliar streets, away from our usual routes. My husband squeezed my hand as we pulled up to a modest home with a well-tended garden. Greta bounded out before we'd even parked, waving enthusiastically. Her parents followed, smiling warmly. Normal people, normal reactions. It felt foreign after weeks of hostility. Thank you for coming, Greta's mother said. We've heard so much about your daughter from Greta. She's been counting down the days. I watched my daughter's face transform as she realized this was real. The invitation stood. No tricks, no humiliation waiting, just a friend who wanted to play. My husband and I exchanged glances. He'd wait at the coffee shop nearby, ready if needed. I'd stay for tea, testing the waters. Inside, Greta's father gestured to family photos lining the walls. We moved here from Munich 8 years ago. Not quite locals, not quite outsiders. We understand complicated positions. Over tea, they shared their own observations about Morton and Astrid. Small things they'd noticed but never voiced. The way Morton lingered at school events. How Astrid would photograph other people's children without asking. We should have spoken up sooner, Greta's mother admitted. But it's easier to stay quiet, you know, until someone shows it's possible to do otherwise. The sound of laughter drifted from upstairs where the girls played. Real, unforced joy. My daughter's voice bright with happiness. She needed this, I said softly. They both did. Greta's been worried about your daughter. Children understand injustice better than we think. I stayed the full 2 hours, watching my daughter rediscover what friendship felt like. When it was time to leave, both girls begged for more time. Next weekend, Greta's mother suggested. You could all come for lunch. Your other children too. The invitation included my whole family, not just tolerating us, but welcoming us. I blinked back tears. We'd love that. Driving home, my daughter chattered nonstop about her afternoon. The dollhouse, the trampoline, the secret fort they'd built. Normal childhood experiences that had become precious through their absence. My husband reached over and took my hand. Maybe we're through the worst of it. But Saturday evening brought a reminder that wars aren't won in single battles. Our doorbell rang after dinner. Through the peephole, I saw the principal standing alone. I opened the door warily. Yes? May I come in? I have information you need to hear. Against my better judgment, I let him enter. He stood awkwardly in our entryway, clearly uncomfortable. The school board met this afternoon. The formal complaint filed by multiple parents forced their hand. There will be an investigation into the bullying incident at auditions. Good. There's more. He shifted his weight. Morton has withdrawn his volunteer position with the football team. Said he needs to focus on family matters. I waited, sensing more coming. Astrid came to see me yesterday. She was distraught. She wanted me to convince you to meet with her, to let her apologize properly. I told her the same, but she seemed different. Broken, maybe. Like she finally understood what she'd done. He paused. I'm not excusing anything, but I thought you should know the community impact. The community chose their side. Now they live with consequences. He nodded slowly. I owe you an apology too. I should have protected your daughter, not the status quo. That's my failure. After he left, I found my husband in the living room. Did you hear? Every word. Think it's genuine? Does it matter? Actions matter, not apologies. Sunday passed quietly. No rocks through windows, no threatening notes, no hostile encounters. The silence felt fragile, like holding our breath. Monday brought the investigations beginning. An independent administrator interviewed my daughter gently, with me present. She described the coordinated coughing, the exclusion, the whispered threats from classmates. Were adults present when these things happened? The investigator asked. My daughter nodded solemnly. The teacher saw. She didn't stop them. Other children were interviewed throughout the week. Greta confirmed witnessing the audition sabotage. 2 boys admitted their parents told them not to play with my daughter. The evidence mounted. By Wednesday, the teacher was placed on administrative leave pending investigation results. A substitute arrived, young and eager, treating all children equally. My daughter came home smiling for the first time in weeks. The new teacher let me be line leader today, and she said my reading was excellent. Small victories, but victories nonetheless. Thursday afternoon, Astrid appeared at the school gate, not approaching, just standing across the street, watching. She looked hollow, her perfect appearance abandoned. When our eyes met, she turned and walked away. Was that Mrs. Astrid? My daughter asked. Yes, she looked sad. Sometimes people make themselves sad through their choices. Oh, she processed this. Like when I broke Thay's crayon on purpose and then felt bad? Similar, but bigger. Friday brought resolution from the school investigation. The principal called personally to deliver results. 3 staff members faced disciplinary action. New anti-bullying protocols would be implemented. A formal apology would be issued to our family. It's not enough, my husband said after I relayed the information, but it's something. That weekend, we returned to Greta's house. This time, my husband stayed too, talking with her father about work while our younger children played in the garden. Normal social interaction, building new connections. Other families began reaching out. Tentative invitations, careful friendships. The community that mattered, the one worth belonging to, slowly revealed itself. Morton and Astrid's house went on the market 3 weeks later. Sabine heard they were moving to Hamburg, starting fresh where their history couldn't follow. The for sale sign stood like a monument to boundaries held firm. My daughter noticed the sign on our walk to school. Are they leaving because of us? They're leaving because of their choices. We just stopped enabling them. She walked quietly for a moment. I hope they feel better someday, but not near us. The wisdom of children, compassion with boundaries. Everything I'd tried to teach made manifest. Spring arrived with tentative healing. My daughter won a role in the spring concert. No coughing disrupted her performance. Parents who'd shunned us nodded politely. The active hostility faded to awkward distance. One evening, as I tucked her into bed, she said, "Mama, I'm glad you protected me, even though it was hard. Always, sweetheart. That's what parents do. Greta's mama said you changed things, that now people know it's okay to speak up." I smoothed her hair, thinking of Ingrid's story about the family 20 years ago. Patterns broken, cycles interrupted, future children protected by our stand. Sometimes changing things is worth the cost. She yawned, settling into sleep. I love you, Mama. I love you too. Standing in her doorway, I watched her drift off peacefully, no longer checking windows for watchers, no longer fearing the doorbell. The war was won through persistence, not surrender. My husband joined me, wrapping his arms around my waist. Any regrets? None. You? Only that it took so long for others to stand with us. We stood together, guardians of our children's safety and autonomy. The community had tested us and found us immovable. Some lessons are worth any price to teach. Our daughter slept soundly, secure in boundaries that held firm against grief, obsession, and collective pressure. Protected not from ordinary kindness, but from those who couldn't distinguish between love and possession. The house was quiet. The battle was over. Our family had survived intact, stronger for the testing. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, peace reigned in a home where children mattered more than anyone's pain.